I've picked up something strange. Something so strange, I'm sure you haven't even thought about it. Probably because you don't care, which is okay. But more possibly because maybe it was done intentionally for you to forget. Maybe. Anyways, I'm talking about the recent disappearance of Linkstrider, which actually, now that I think about it, isn't all that recent, but finding someone who uses this oath is actually harder than finding someone who actually spends time fishing. And it's not really a secret to the community or the players, right? You can ask about anyone and they will probably maybe have never even gotten the oath or really used it, which is odd because it's not horribly underpowered or even really hard to use. You can stack like 2 Linkstriders maxed out with Vow of Mastery into a gank and it instantly becomes unfair for the other players. But then, why? Instinctively, the first thought that came to mind was the attainment and the progression, which, sure, right? It isn't fun. But then, I remembered that Contractor exists. And that, in my opinion, is much, much harder and probably takes longer for the average player to do. Unless they are using an ult account, but of course, that still takes time, right? And then I realized, right? It came to my head. The reason that no one uses this oath isn't because it's bad or hard to get, but because there's no real reason to play support in Deepwoken. Disregarding Chime for a second, even if we look at the overworld meta, sure, you could say that survivability matters, but ultimately, track starring will always be on top. If you're losing, just run away. If you're winning, you can just chase them down. How can your opponent knock you if they can't even reach you? Right? And then, there's Chime of Conflict, which is like the main thing that everyone plays nowadays. Which I think it explains itself because there's no one else for you to heal. And not to mention that Parasitic Leech really isn't all that good when it's just you and one other person. Because there's no one else to apply pressure to the enemy. So, you're kind of screwed. They can just hold F and you can't really do anything. Okay, so it doesn't really work in Chime, but surely you'll still see it sometimes in the overworld, right? Well, not really, since there are still better options for support, like Blindseer, which has a move that heals more than Linkstrider's move, which 0 cost to health, right? And on top of that, you have Sightless Beam. You can stack like 3 of those, and they're really easy to get. Or Salt Chemist, which is even worse, it's even better for support. Because by using Placebo Effect, both you and as many teammates can heal a bar pretty much every like 25 seconds. Alongside all the other offensive potions you can make with Salt Chemist. And it's also really, really easy to get. But even with Linkstrider being on the weaker side of support oaths currently, I don't really think it needs a buff, right? Maybe it could use 1 or 2 more moves, but in my opinion, it is in a well-balanced state for where it is. Unfortunately, I can't really say that for many other things, like what I just mentioned, Salt Chemist, which could very, very, very much still use some nerfs. I've seen so many people go from like 800 elo to top 250 just using Salt Chemist alone, which is insanity. Anyways, speaking of moves, this oath could definitely use some more leech moves. I think, you know, its whole gimmick is like stealing health and giving it to others, but it only really has like 2 moves, which is kind of sad. Maybe you could give it a passive or something that works similar to Vampirism, or a move that like traps players in and steals some of their health or something. I don't know. There's a lot you could do with it. But, you know, it just kind of feels forgotten and underutilized, but maybe that's a good thing, I don't know. Anyways, that's about all I've got to say for Deepwoken today, right? I think me and most other DeepTubers are kind of like, you know, we're kind of burnt out right now in most ways. The B-roll you're seeing right now, I didn't want to play Deepwoken, and honestly, I didn't want another Chime footage, so it's just my Roblox character walking around or sitting or something. Anyways, if you don't see me upload for a while, you know why. As always, thank you to my members, Jim, Ethan Redon, and recently we got another one, Iced. We have been steadily growing in both subs and members, which makes me feel quite happy. Speaking of, if you want to do me a favor, you can go ahead and subscribe, as it is free. Or if you're feeling generous, you can always become a member, which is linked in the description. Yes sir, yes sir. Anyways, thank you. As always, have a good day, and I'll see you later. Bye-bye.